Richplanet TV is sponsored by preppersafehomes.co.uk. At last, home protection that really works.
Right, I'm now in East Sussex, is that right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah, East Sussex, and I'm at Hailsham, and I'm with Frank Mewett, who witnessed something in 2010, just over 2 years ago. This was, what month was it, Frank?
I think it was November, but it could have been October of...
October, November 2010?
Yeah, yes.
Right, so this was an early morning sighting, so just tell us what happened that morning.
I got up like I normally do, about 5:30, go to the bathroom, get ready to take the dog out. Walked up the jetty, across the road, went up Tilehurst, and I approached the top corner and I heard a humming sound. It didn't come from any distance, it seemed to come suddenly. It attracted my attention. I turned around and saw this thing in the sky. I walked a few more yards and stopped because it moved over across the road to the bungalows. And I just stood there and looked at it. My dog was nosing around in the grass and taking any notice, and I just looked at it. I was absolutely dumbfounded. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Big object, flat, I think it was round, a lot of lights. Like a kaleidoscope, like swirling around this thing. And I just dumbstruck. They seemed to be about 200 feet, maybe 300 feet off the ground, and it moved over the top of these bungalows. And I stood there watching it, and then I found myself at the other end, by perhaps 70 or 80 yards further on the road. All
right, so if we just stick on the sighting itself for the minute. So you told me on the phone that it covered both of these bungalows.
The bungalows are about, I would think, about 30, 35 feet across. And there's a gap between them, which is about another 30 or 40 feet. And it dwarfed those.
Right.
It was above the tree height, stepped back a little bit, and just stood there for a moment. And I looked at it and I thought, nah. I thought, I'm imagining this, it's got to be lights or something else. And I found myself further along the road.
Right.
And when I turned around, it was gone.
So, any feel for what direction it came from, or where it came from?
It came from my right, that I'm sure of, because as I approached the corner, the sound came from behind my right shoulder. And when I turned around, it was coming across to my left.
We're fairly near the coast here, are we?
About 7 miles, 6.5, 7 miles.
So did it come from inland or east, west?
I would say it was, what's that, north up there, so northeast, or northeast, something like that.
From the northeast?
Yeah, because I think that's north up this way,
right.
And it came from, yes.
From northeast?
That's only guessing mine.
Did you see it move at all, or was it just...
It came from my right, and it moved and stopped over the top of the bungalows. And I looked at it. As I noticed, I heard the noise, and when I looked at it, the noise stopped. And it just moved silently across the road, and just settled for a moment. Not very long, and I found myself over the other, further along. I looked around, it was gone.
Now are you familiar with the Alan Godfrey sighting? If you're not, I'll just fill you in. 1980, police officer. He saw something with swirling lights, sounds similar to what you've said, probably not as big as what you've said, and the guy finds himself a few hundred yards down the road and doesn't know what's happened.
There was no missing time with me.
So there was no missing time?
No.
And you've asked your wife about that as well?
When I came home, I said to her, I've just seen a UFO, and I think you asked me, or Dave Hodgwin asked me in an email, was there any missing time? And I asked my wife, and she said to me that no, I'd just been my normal time.
Right. Okay.
So whether anything had happened in the time I was stood on that corner to the time I moved the other end, I couldn't say, but it would have to be very quick.
Right. And was the this object shining anything down to the ground, or did it appear to be
No, the
examining
lights, I noticed that the lights, although they were sort of bright, they didn't emanate down. There was no light shining. This is what I couldn't understand. There was no light coming down like a rainbow.
Right.
And all the lights, they're sort of all mixing together.
Right.
And it seemed like they were going round.
Right. Okay. And what would you guess the shape was?
I thought it was round,
Right.
but I
You say
think...
round, you don't mean spherical, though.
No, I mean sort of flat and round, like a
Right.
sponge.
Right. Okay.
I think that's the best way I can...
So
there was-
possibly a thick disc then, something like
Yes.
that. Right.
Yes.
Now then, Frank, how far are we from Alfriston here? Do you know Alfriston?
Yeah, Alfriston's about 12 miles away,
That's very interesting because in
where the long man is.
right
Wilmington,
there, right where that long man is, Alfriston. I was in a farm on the 25th of October 2010 because there was a horse mutilation case. Two weeks prior to that horse mutilation, one of the people on that farm witnessed a disc above the field, next to the field where the horse had been mutilated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'd be talking mid-October. So it's 12 mile away. Someone's witnessed this. I've got that guy's testimony. I can't remember his name, but I can maybe pull that video out because we're not that far away, really.
See, I've doubted this. I thought I was going off my trolley,
Right.
but I certainly didn't imagine this, and it certainly wasn't an aircraft. It was huge,
Right.
and there was a slight glint of metal there, metallic object, but
So your own gut feeling, who did it belong to?
well, it wasn't an aircraft carrier or an aeroplane or anything. I've never seen anything like it before.
Now, volume 7 here
Yeah.
contains an extra 100 pages. Can you tell us why
well,
you had to
that
put
was only
100
gonna
extra
be-
pages?
It's 100 extra pages because our friend Dan Goring from Earthlink, he used with the Essex group. Here he is. Yep.
Earthlink is a UFO research organisation.
Yeah,
based
well,
in-
that was the magazine that Dan produced. He very kindly, as we were completing the book at 320 pages, okay, sent us a little bundle here
Yeah, he's...
of reports that had never been published before.
Okay, right, great. So he sent you this,
And there are some more, excuse me, so, you know...
all from that period, late
all from that 78, 79.
1970s. These are UFO reports,
That's
predominantly
just
from
one
the
little
Essex
area
region.
From Essex, yeah.
Yeah.
So they had to go in. And
So all of these reports have been condensed into
Yes.
into volume.
they've all gone in.
Yeah.
We leave nothing out. So they've gone into the back of the book. So that's 420 pages.
Right.
Now we are having some not problems with volume 8, but of course volume 8, and I think we might have mentioned it before, it's going to be in colour. All books will be in colour, but I might have to slightly increase the price on volume 8 because I can't sell books and have to run at a loss. So we might have to slightly increase that to cater to the fact that it's colour, to cater to the fact that it won't be 320 pages because at least 250 pages is the Rendlesham incident. And
250 pages on
250 pages will be the Rendlesham
Right,
stuff.
okay.
And then the other 150 pages will be January to November UFO sightings, including the Alan Godfrey case. And there's a lot more in there about Alan that people will not have read about before.
Right.
Not specifically Alan, but about...
So this is volume
itself.
8, which
Yeah.
is yet to come out.
Well, yeah, that's just a rough...
Right.
That's not the completed
Cover.
cover, but if you want to...
Okay. So this is what John's
I mean, that's just
working
a
on at the
tatty
moment.
thing, but that's how it's going to look.
Okay.
If you look on the back, you'll see.
And we've got Rendlesham and the Godfrey case in
Yeah.
in this upcoming issue.
And we have a recommendation from Colonel Holt.
Approved by Colonel Charles Holt,
Approved by
who was
Colonel
the Deputy Base Commander of the...
He has approved all of these books
Right.
as worth reading.
In volume 7 at the beginning, there's a report on the United Nations UFO debate with Jacques Vallée, a very prominent UFO author, and Hynek there,
Yeah.
the little spook that he was.
Pardon?
Well, he's a
You have
flawed...
to be careful, Richard.
He was the government physicist,
Right,
wasn't
yeah.
he, who was an arch debunker.
Well, he was to start with. Yeah, he was to start with.
Yeah.
As
Okay.
indeed probably.
So can you give us a brief précis of what happened at this UN UFO debate?
I
Gordon
mean,
Cooper there, the astronaut.
Yeah, that's right. The one that's
Because
passed.
he wrote the famous letter to the United
He
Nations.
did, yeah. I mean, but the Coyne case was very interesting. Lieutenant Coyne, where they 73 was it?
Okay.
73, the helicopter. There's if you look at the back of the book, isn't that a helicopter image or something of it or not? No, that's the Sir Livingstone 79.
Right.
No, that's another case. I always remember when Dr. Hynek said, Alan Hynek said, the biggest problem with this subject, we are too rich in imagery, and I suffer from the same problem. We are too rich. We have too many fantastic cases, and weak and strong. We have so much, and yet when you think of the debate at the United Nations, Pete Robbins said to me that as far as the newspapers were concerned, they weren't that interested. I think on that date there was a mayor in New York was murdered, or somebody was murdered. The papers were full of that, quite rightly, but the debate went past unnoticed.
So what was the actual conclusion of the debate? Was there any actions made from it? Or?
There were suggestions, but
Right.
nothing was implemented. Because
From Volume 7 onwards,
we've set up a search inside facility,
a search inside facility,
so
which
people
means you can
read the pages.
Yeah, look up the book on Amazon, and you can actually read
inside before
read
you
sample
buy
pages
it.
from the book.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of cases in each volume, so
Too many, really.
We're just scratching the surface here. But thanks very much,
No, thank you
John,
very much for
being on the show again.
Yeah, thank you.
And
well, I was driving a van at the time, Vauxhall Valero, I think it is, and quite a big window, and in the corner was what I'd call a penny-sized globe,
right,
which initially thought it was the moon,
right,
but then I realised the moon was this way,
okay.
and every corner I went round just followed me round
Right.
every corner.
You told me earlier that it had quite crisp edges, so just
Yes.
describe that for me.
It almost seemed flat,
Right,
not actually a circle, but flat.
right,
And pulsing like a very pale orange, pretty
right.
colour.
And could you estimate the distance and the size of this thing?
I would say it was the size of one of those shuttle buses,
Right,
and it was way off there.
right.
I'd say 100 yards from me and then above the trees. So
Okay, so the road you were on, just describe that. Is it a straight road? Is it a windy road? Is
it's
it
very, very windy, sort of.
right?
Yeah.
And what? And it did
Completely stayed the same place the whole time.
right. So you felt it was following you then,
Yes, and I actually said, please don't ruin
Right.
my electrics.
right? So
I
you
was frightened to death.
you thought this thing was maybe going to
Yeah.
interfere with your electrics, and did you experience anything?
No, nothing.
Right. All right. So how long did it last for then? How long did
Well, I've worked out it's 4 miles, and then pulling in.
All right. So it's probably at least 5 or 6 minutes then.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So what were you feeling when you got to your home? And
I was scared to death.
really,
Yeah,
really,
yeah. I actually thought that something was going to happen,
right,
so I was shaking when I got out the truck,
right.
and then I looked up, and then I saw it more clearly, and then it just like a light switch.
So it just went out. All right. You didn't see it go anywhere.
No.
It just went out. Okay.
No, there was no.
So when you was observing it, did you feel there was something solid within it?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
It's almost as if it knew where I lived.
So it was in front of you then.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And a skeptic might say, well, if the moon was out that night, you've just mistaken it from the moon. What would you say to that?
The moon can't go round corners.
Right. You were telling me about news report the following day after you had your sighting. So just
Yes.
tell us about that.
Well, after telling my friend that laughed in my face, she phoned me up the next day and said that her son had read the local paper claiming to have 9 sightings.
Right.
So this made me really thrilled.
Richplanet TV is sponsored by preppersafehomes.co.uk. Shield, protecting your most valuable assets.